He's lost some money, even though the shares are coming back. The news says that the 152 billion dollar drop in shares is the biggest in 4 years. It has never happened. Market capitalization drop. Of course, public perception and all of that. So let's start from rating Elon on a scale of 1 to 10, and then we'll come back and take lessons. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Elon Musk's EQ?
That one is hard though,
10
because
million,
my first impulse is to say 4/10. That guy is crazy, but I'll leave it at 6/10. Elon Musk, I'll rate him at 6 over, and I think he has earned 6/10, but I'll leave it at 6/10 because of some parts of EQ that he demonstrates. But ideally, by default, I would have given him a 4/10.
Good afternoon, Sam. Good to have you here. Sam Obafemi of Seka Africa. I'm excited to have you as the first guest on this new series, EQ Lessons from Around the World. And I think that there's many lessons to learn every day. EQ lessons from around the world. You're an EQ guru, so it's good to start with EQ gurus, and then we can take it to other people. Today, we want to talk about the big boy, Elon Musk. Elon Musk and his EQ and
Elon.
Yes, and his mental state. So we're going to be looking at him, but let's just quickly look at it. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about people who are perfect or people should be perfect or not. What we're talking about is what lessons can we draw from people's life? I believe that there are EQ lessons here and there. If you're listening to us, people think that EQ is about relationship. Emotional intelligence is about relationship. But I tell them that emotional intelligence is really about the decisions that you make, in life. When you're deciding what to eat, and deciding whether it is good enough for you. It's not a relationship. Maybe it's intra-personal relationship. Maybe we can say that. So for Elon Musk, I mean, he's the richest man in the world. Who are we to be talking about?
Yeah.
The richest man in the world, and looking at his EQ. So what has happened recently? He criticized Trump's bill. And Trump, he will say is a big, beautiful bill. He called it an abomination, right? I mean, he called it abomination. And then I think on the 29th, he expressed his disappointment. He was disheartened by the bill. And that is because he's working in Department of Government Efficiency, trying to reduce spending, and then the bill is filled with spending, right? And then I think on the 5th, which is the recent saga, he said something about Trump's tariff plan and said the tariff plan would not work. It's going to bring about recession later this year. Trump had not said anything all this while, if you notice. And then all of a sudden, Trump said, I'm disappointed in Elon. Elon is running thin. And then that's another trigger for Elon. He went on and said it's an ugly bill. And then his resignation, he said the VP should become the president. He even said he would sponsor a third party, which is really not a thing in America. I mean, and then he mentioned the Epstein file, which was a big blow. Like that was a big blow for the file. He's lost some money, even though the shares are coming back. The news says that the 152 billion dollar drop in shares is the biggest in 4 years. It has never happened. Market capitalization drop. Of course, public perception and all of that. So let's start from rating Elon on a scale of 1 to 10, and then we'll come back and take lessons. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Elon Musk's EQ?
That one is hard though, because my first impulse is to say 4/10. That guy is crazy, but I'll leave it at 6/10. Elon Musk, I'll rate him at 6 over, and I don't think he has earned 6 over 10, but I'll leave it at 6 over 10 because of some parts of EQ that he demonstrates. But ideally, by default, I would have given him a 4 over 10.
So that would be
Because that guy is in a class.
that would be his EQ strength, I guess.
Is that what?
So that would be because of his EQ strength.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So what this means is
Yes.
that people can have issues, but they can also have some strength that we call EQ strength, right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's look at it. I think that
Yes. People can have issues, but you will always find a silver lining, even despite their issues. There's always something about them that is outstanding that you can say, oh, I wish I had this quality that this guy has or this lady has.
yeah.
So yes, that's it.
So I think resilience will be one. What do you think?
I think so. Resilience is definitely a very strong trait of Elon Musk. I think vision is a very strong trait of Elon Musk.
Okay.
And of course, resilience goes with staying power. Staying power is also a very strong trait. And then assertiveness. He's very assertive. Elon Musk is not a pushover. He asserts himself. I think his sense of self-awareness is very high. Elon Musk's sense of self-awareness is he knows who he is. You know where they say, I know who I be. His sense of self-awareness very high. Yes. But maybe his sense of self-control is really not as high as it should be. I wouldn't say it's very low,
but
it is actually.
Let's stay on the strength for a minute. So intrinsic motivation.
Okay, great.
The capacity to be motivated from within is a powerful emotional intelligence strength. Right? And he has it.
True.
If you look at how he's built, how he's built SpaceX, how he's built the Boring Company. These are companies. What he did with Twitter. These are companies that you would naturally think that they will not survive. SpaceX, like crazy. Humans have never done it. Twitter, Tesla, the things that people were struggling to achieve. So that's a lot of intrinsic motivation. And everybody needs it. If you really want to achieve anything, we need to look towards this guy and say, he's got the strength from within. He would say we can do it, and then he will push at it. I think he has a lot of optimism. I think he has a lot of optimism too.
He does. He does. I mean, running enterprises that ideally one person builds something very big, but he is running like 4 major organizations at the same time.
Yeah.
The guy has got it. He has capacity, man.
And when I listened to his story where he had some money and he needed to decide where to put the money in 2008, it takes a lot of optimism to say it will work. It will work. It will work. And indeed, it works. So resilience, like you said, optimism. We started with intrinsic motivation, optimism, right?
Yes.
Then you talked about resilience. Yes. So tell us about resilience. You are saying staying power.
Yes. So if I've read a book about him, especially how Tesla evolved from concept to people buying into it, to him almost going bankrupt. Time and again, the story of Elon Musk is that ideally you should just say, you know what, okay, I'm done. Let me just forget that this failed.
Yeah.
But somehow he has this absolute giving. He's absolutely sold out to what he does, such that he doesn't back down. And that's an unbelievable strength with respect to resilience. He has that. I respect his resilience because he doesn't seem to be faced by embarrassment. He's not faced by I have failed. He's not faced by I'm in debt. I owe you, I don't owe you. I'm doing this thing.
Yeah.
One of the books I read about him where people were pulling out their funds and people were saying, we're not doing this Tesla thing. And he said, even if he takes, like he sold a major stake, an unrealistic stake just to get inflow to run a plant. Last month he launched Tesla City. Like he now has a city in Texas. Tesla City. So the guy has power. His staying power is off the books, man. He's doing very well with resilience.
So EQ strength, resilience. I think that goal will also be part of it. You said vision before. We call that noble goal. The capacity to make decisions on where he's going and just eyes on the ball. Irrespective of what is going on,
Yes.
he has that too.
Yes.
And these are some things
He
that
does.
people struggle with. It would be nice to just keep talking about
I mean, take a look at what he did with Twitter before it became. Twitter used to be you earn your verification and it was a bragging right. And he said, no, you have to subscribe and pay for it. And people were like, no, X is going to fail. You cannot tell people to pay for subscription. And he said,
They're
just
all paying
watch
now.
and see. And then he brought on these, he brought on this impression payment. If you have impressions, a particular threshold, you earn from it, and that was the game changer.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy has foresight. He has eyes where people don't ordinarily see the direction he's going. I mean, even look at the way he pushed Donald Trump. He
Yeah.
was majorly influential in Donald Trump's victory because he was saying the right things in the right way. So
Yeah.
honestly, so he has a way of seeing what people don't see and putting the words right where it matters. And I give him credit for that.
All right. So learning from strength, but everybody's got weaknesses. So EQ, what are his emotional intelligence weaknesses? Let's start from what you said earlier. Self-management, self-control.
Yes. Elon Musk needs a lot of self-control. And I think it comes from the fact that he doesn't seem to be accountable to anyone or anything. He's a god to himself.
I'd never thought about it that way. He's not reporting to anybody in the world.
I don't think Elon Musk is answerable to any human being on earth. I don't think so.
I've never thought about it that way. Like, he's the
So,
richest man in the world, doing the things. Kolushiro, you want to say some people are now.
like,
What's the word now? Some people are now. So there's national. There's local. There's national.
yes.
There's international. There is after international, then intercontinental, right? There's intercontinental,
Okay.
and there's global. Now there is galactica.
Okay.
Galactica.
Hey.
So Galactica, you're not operating in this world anymore. He's operating from a galactical point of view. He has products in the space. He's not inside the world again. He wants to go to Mars. Starlink is in the space. So he's thinking from a galactical point of view, not
I'm telling you.
So you cannot be thinking at a galactical point of view and then be answerable to people in a global point of view in the world. So
I'm committed to it. I'm telling you, honestly. So that's a major issue because his level of self-control is very poor. And it just stems from the fact that I can do anything I want.
Yeah.
Because I think at some point, Elon Musk probably thinks that no government can affect him.
I think he's influencing government.
I think it comes from maybe.
What do you think?
Yes.
America is dependent on Starlink. American defense is dependent on Starlink. And now India and several countries around the world. I mean, in Ukraine war, he's supporting Ukraine with internet when they don't have internet. That means if he switches it off, the war will change.
Crazy, man.
So you are
man, that's some level.
Brazil's election.
That's some level.
They shut down internet in Brazil, I think, because of young people on social media. And he switched on Starlink, and they were all browsing and they were on social media and everything. So you are correct. It means that as human beings, if we find ourselves in the place where we are not answerable to anybody, then consequential thinking is going to be very hard.
Yes, I agree.
Self-control.
I totally agree.
Which is self-management.
I totally agree.
Will be very difficult.
Yes. I totally agree with you on that.
You know what just came to mind now? Every time we're having a coaching session with a couple, right? And you hear the woman say, my husband does not answer to anybody. That's where they lose control. I don't know if you've had any session like that. I'm sure you have. He said nobody.
Yesterday, as at yesterday, this line was what I got from a client. She said, my husband does not answer to
anybody.
It has always been a problem.
It's
a big challenge in emotional intelligence. When you are not answerable to anyone, your level of self-management it's just going to be like is in God's hands, because you are just a loose cannon and you can do. So I was saying that if can you hear me?
Yes. Can you take that again?
Okay. So I was saying that when somebody is not answerable to anybody, attaining self-management becomes very difficult, because then you're a loose cannon. You can do anything anyhow, and it doesn't look like anything is wrong. So self-management in the absence of accountability is almost just a theoretical concept, practical. So we can almost say that there's a direct link between accountability and self-management. There's a direct link. I mean, see what we were saying before we went live about the issue of that anger management and that minister.
Yeah. Exactly. So
we see a direct
is directly proportional.
You said a lady dissected the issue and was disrespectful, and you said you cannot say that.
Yes.
If we dissect that your statement, if you analyze your statement, you're actually saying there are people that will call me to order if I ever come out to say such a thing. So that's actually the implication.
So there's a need for control, because somebody's going to say, are you sure you want to do this?
Exactly.
That's a light bulb moment.
Exactly. Exactly.
Accountability and
I'm telling you, people
are directly proportional. That's a light bulb.
Yes. If you directly proportional. So you see, you now remember that when people reference answers and they say these children of nowadays, they just do anyhow, it's because when you look at it, there is a direct link between self-control and accountability. If I don't feel accountable to you or to anyone, I feel invincible. Like, you know what, I can do I don't care. So I think that's, for me, this is quite a light bulb for me too, because we need to see the relationship that way. It helps.
Yeah. Interesting. Let's talk about his empathy. Ordinarily, I would say that he's got empathy, because if you listen to Elon, he talks about world. For Tesla, it would be about making the world a better place, quote unquote. Like, electric vehicle is better than all the smokes and carbon that we're putting in the world. In terms of SpaceX, it would say that we need to be we need to have multi-planet, right? We cannot be uni, you understand? Because anything can happen to the world. In terms of Boring Company, he would say that the reason behind Boring Company is that we need to be more 3D. We cannot be 2D, and then we expect to live in the world successfully. But if we begin to go under the ground, we can reduce traffic and all of those kind of things. So that's why he created the Boring Company. He can find a humanity reason, you understand, for everything. Now, I don't know if that is scope or if that is genuine, but honestly, it sounds genuine, right? So, but when you now look at his relationship with Trump, you will see that in the last few days, the empathy was zero. So you begin to wonder, does he have empathy, or does he lose empathy in certain emotional states?
This is a very deep question, because my first reasoning would be that he's a rebel for a cause. And so his empathy comes from a place of protest. I think that Elon Musk likes to challenge the status. Obviously. And he presents a solution that looks like, I'm using the status quo to solve a problem that people are suffering from. So maybe that context is where empathy comes from. But I think his interpersonal relationship Elon Musk will most likely pick himself 9 out of 10 times. My perception of him, unless there is something in it for him, he's not likely to put his weight behind it. And that already puts a snag on his empathy, because if it has to be like something is in it for me, then the empathy is a transactional conversation in that context. So his empathy is suspect, if you ask me. Like, I mean, look at this issue of the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency vis-a-vis the big bill. He has a mission to prove a point.
You are correct.
And then you feel that is going to destroy my attempt to prove a point. Like, I'm not ready to negotiate that with you, Mr. Trump. That's the way I look at it.
Because
so instead of him negotiating a middle,
if they go ahead with that bill, and it's going to rub on all that he has done in DOGE, from what you're saying now.
Exactly. He needs to prove a point. He has a point to prove that I came into government, I drove a particular mission, and we achieved it. And then here you are trying to put dirt on that mission, and he's not going to take it. So I think that Elon Musk is driven by protest. He's constantly protesting against the status quo. That's my understanding of his empathy.
So it might not be.
So he may be saying, yeah, we're saving the world.
I know that's the reason why some people don't like him, that all these things are just facade. They are not real. That's why he's making more money. But he has a noble cause. He has a noble cause for everything that he does. Interesting.
So now it's becoming harder to define noble cause. That means there may be undertone to what we see as noble cause.
I agree. So go back to the definition, to the scale, 1 to 10. Would you still leave him at 6?
Yes. Honestly, I think I should go to my default 4/10. I'll sleep better that way.
How does somebody who is at 4 is the richest man in the world?
Oh my God. But you know the funny thing is that I think that there is a growth in narcissistic trends among the wealthiest people. I think if you do a bit of study, you'll see a pattern that, so we're in a dispensation where people tend to enjoy being oppressed. And that is the chaos that is the opportunity for wealthy people. So the very wealthy people,
I need you to stop there.
Yes.
People tend to love being oppressed. I wrote on several pages about 2 weeks ago. I said, from religion to politics, there is to office. This is how I said it. Human beings have an unconscious need to be subdued.
I totally agree. 200%. Completely.
And they don't know it.
And it seems to be the strategy. They don't know it. And so those people who are conscious of this fuel it and are able to succeed properly. I mean, let's look at the dynamics of politics in Nigeria today. That is actually the MO. That's the model operandi right now.
And if you go into religion, it's the same thing.
Become wealthy on their account, give them just handouts, make them feel like they have won, use them to oppress those that don't have the handouts, laugh at those that don't have the handouts, give them a little more handouts, make them feel like they are kings. It's just a cycle. So I think that it's an unfortunate dispensation that really thrives on narcissism and oppression. But that looks like what most very successful people are doing right now. I mean, there's a very big slander on social media now about one of our biggest preachers in Lagos. And they were saying in his family, they throw away food and you cannot eat. And he pays like, what, true or not true, allegedly, but these are the patterns we've observed. It looks like the more people are subdued and oppressed, the higher the opportunities for wealth.
This is going to be an important podcast topic to say, do you have an unconscious need to be suppressed without knowing it? How did we get here? At Elon's noble goal, right? Somehow it got us here. Okay, so I just take it from the part of 4. So I think that you've gotten back to 4 because we started discussing empathy, and then we came to realization that maybe it's not really empathy. Maybe it's that positive rebellion challenging the status quo in the world. And if you're challenging the status quo, I don't think that you would need a lot of empathy because you need to break doors, you need to spoil things, you need to push.
That's brutal.
You have to be brutal.
Yeah.
I don't think that brutal and empathy can be in the same sentence, right?
I don't think so.
So,
they cannot be in the same sentence.
Last question. And this question would be, how do I put it? It's a vulnerable question for people like us who teach EQ. Does it mean that somebody with quote unquote that level of EQ, can attain, wealth that much and success that much? Or would it be that EQ skills like motivation, resilience, optimism, can push you to success beyond EQ skills like empathy? Would that be the situation?
So I think that it's a bit of trade-off across board. We need to have very high levels of motivation, very high levels of resilience, very high levels of intrinsic motivation, very high levels of foresight, noble goals. We need to have that at a very high level.
Optimism too?
Then I think that we need to balance, and optimism too, yes. But I think we need to balance empathy with systems. Because when you are dealing with people, if it was a lone journey, you're on your own, you know where you're going.
Right. Yeah.
But when you're growing, you're going to be working with human beings. And then, let's be honest, bro, as entrepreneurs, you'll be tested. You're going to encounter human beings of all kinds of. So I think where the empathy needs to balance, we need to balance empathy with systems such that you are focusing on the system and the results and weeding out sabotage to the system. When you weed out sabotage, it may look like low empathy, but you have to be loyal to the system.
Yeah, I agree. And loyalty to the system.
Empathy needs to be balanced out with system.
Yeah, and loyalty to the system is making choices based on vision, irrespective of people. And that's a weakness for a lot of people.
Exactly.
That's a weakness for a lot of people.
Exactly.
And that's emotional intelligence in itself.
My brother, that's the fact.
That's emotional intelligence in itself. At every point in time, emotions, vision. You don't make decisions based on emotion because you want to practice empathy. No, you make decisions based on vision. However, you consider people, quote unquote, how you relate to people. And I think that when it comes to people, you don't hear a lot of people say he's a brutal person at work as compared to Steve Jobs.
Yes.
You don't hear that. You hear that.
Very true.
They're very, very, very nice things that they say about him. He's there with them, he's working with them, he gives them their flowers and all of that. So maybe he lacks empathy, not with people he works with. It will be, and so that means there's empathy there. Maybe it's when it comes to challenging,
there's empathy there.
There's challenging big things. He doesn't give a damn. Again, that might just be vision. So
but Elon Musk has issues with dissenting views at work from the book I read.
Yes.
I think he does well. People that flow with him, he's cool with you. He can spoil you. He can take care of you. Like you guys will sit on the floor, take your coffee and your whiskey together and do the work and get back to work. But if you have a different view, you will see him in his elements. These are documented information about Elon Musk. So he's not the type that we say, okay, maybe you have a superior argument. Let me hear you out. And then, because even in his book, you will see scenarios where there are conversations and he says, please leave. I'm going to do it the way I want it.
Well, I mean,
he just may not be as saucy and caustic as Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs was another level of, of
well, I mean, if somebody is working with a lot of people and putting chips in the brain and going to this moon, I mean, going to the space and creating Tesla, I'm sure that somewhere in the midst of all of that, he's listening to people, but probably doesn't know how to relate when he knows that ideas will not work and things like that. So emotional intelligence is not a one-way thing; it's a mix of the and so if you're listening today, you can see that you need a lot of all these things. While you need empathy, you also need intrinsic motivation because the world will stop you. While you need intrinsic motivation, you need a lot of optimism. You need a lot of resilience. And then you need to keep your eyes on the ball at the same time. And you need also the capacity to be assertive. And sometimes assertiveness can be getting close to aggressiveness, even though it shouldn't be, because you need to keep going. And that in itself are emotional intelligence skills. I hope that the viewers have gotten some important lessons from the Sam Obafemi, the octopus. Thank you for starting this series with us, EQ lessons from around the world. And I think it's also great that we're starting with the richest man in the world, having issues with the most powerful man in the world, and with an EQ guru like you. Thank you so much.
Powerful man in the world.
Thank you.
It's a privilege for me, bro. Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Thank you,
until the next episode of EQ Lessons from Around the World, keep practicing emotional intelligence. Cheers, everyone. Bye.